We're after the announcement of Vice President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah as the winner of Namibia's presidential election on the 3rd of December. The country's opposition party is leading calls for a fresh round of elections. Nandi-Ndaitwah, who was the candidate of the Swapo party, could become the country's first female president after her inauguration on the 21st of March 2025, if nothing changes. According to the Electoral Commission, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah took more than 57% of the vote, while her main opposition rival, Panduleni Itula, captured 26%. The leader of the Independent Patriots for Change, Mr. Panduleni Itula, described the election as chaotic, citing the lack of ballot papers and technical issues as reasons. Following his claim, a 3-day extension of voting was implemented in some parts of the country. Mr. Itula has asked the judiciary to annul the results. He's inciting opposition parties and citizens to work together against what he calls a suppression of the right to vote. And still in Africa, the Mozambican police force says at least 5 people have been killed and 3 seriously injured in protests across the country. Spokesman for the police general command says the clashes erupted between police and protesters armed with stones, knives and machetes. The demonstrations were reportedly called by defeated presidential candidate Venancio Mondlane, who faulted the October 9 election results of being fraudulent and declaring himself the winner. Outgoing President Filipe Nyusi has warned that the unrest could distort salary payments in the public sector, particularly for teachers and nurses, due to Mozambique's lack of external financial support. You're watching The What Now. We'll take a break and return with more stories. Stay with us.
Experience information and entertainment like never before as TVC Breakfast takes your weekends to a whole new level. Introducing TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, your ultimate source of thrilling sports updates, insightful political analysis, and captivating entertainment news. Stay in the know with what's trending, catch up with the latest in sports, and immerse yourself in the latest buzz from the world of music and movies. Your weekends are no longer just days off, but moments packed with knowledge, excitement, and enjoyment. TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, only on TVC News.
Thanks for staying with us on The What Now. We're staying in Africa, where health officials in Congo have raised the alarm over an unidentified flu-like illness that has killed at least 71 people in the southern Kwango province. The deaths reported between the 10th of November and the 25th in the Panzi Health Zone includes 27 patients who died in hospitals and 44 fatalities in the community. Congolese Minister of Public Health, Roger Kamba, says it looks like a respiratory type of illness, but it is still too early to determine the cause of the mode of transmission of the disease. Now, still talking health matters, in Sierra Leone, the government has started a nationwide rollout of the single-dose Ebola vaccine as the first of such campaign in West Africa, where a deadly outbreak 10 years ago resulted in the deaths of thousands. The 2014 Ebola outbreak was primarily in West Africa, but it affected Sierra Leone the most, with nearly 4,000 deaths out of the more than 11,000 recorded globally. The country also lost 7% of its healthcare workforce to the outbreak. The government is first of all targeting healthcare workers and frontline workers like the police, military officers and traditional healers in its ongoing vaccination campaign. Away from the African continent to Europe, where French President Emmanuel Macron says he will name a new prime minister in the coming days. This follows the resignation of Michel Barnier after French parliamentarians voted overwhelmingly to remove him from office on Wednesday, only 3 months after he was appointed by President Macron as prime minister. In a 10-minute address to the nation, President Macron rejected pressure from the opposition to step down. He accused the French far-right and hard left of collaborating to bring down the government. And let's turn attention now to Syria, where President Bashar al-Assad's efforts to restore peace to the troubled country has witnessed another setback. The country's stiff-necked rebels say they have taken full control of the second major city of Hama after the military withdrew its troops stationed there. The leader of the Islamist militant group, Abu Muhammad al-Jalani, had declared victory in Hama. His fighters and their allies had earlier taken over Hama Central Prison and released inmates amid fierce battles. The military says it has redeployed troops outside the city of Hama, which is home to 1 million people. Staying in Asia, let's turn attention to South Korea, where embattled President Yoon Suk-yeol has reportedly called off a visit to parliament where he is to face impeachment proceedings for his failed attempt to impose martial law. Unconfirmed reports say President Yoon was coming to apologize, but his office claims he has no plans to do so. We have a report.
President Yoon plunged South Korea into political turmoil with a sudden decision on Tuesday night to introduce martial law, but his intention was swiftly stopped by lawmakers. Political parties in the country have been holding meetings on the crisis, and the vote to impeach President Yoon is scheduled for Saturday. Keeping the political tension boiling, the leader of Mr. Yoon's party, Han Dong-hoon, says he must be suspended from office. This gives the signal his People Power Party may vote with the opposition to impeach Mr. Yoon. President Yoon had reportedly planned to visit Parliament today, but opposition lawmakers linked their arms to block him from entry when they heard the news. The presidential office later said he would not be visiting. Meanwhile, the South Korean police force is bracing up for massive protests tomorrow when Parliament is to vote on the motion to impeach President Yoon. The opposition coalition, which holds a majority in Parliament, needs just 8 members of President Yoon's party to pass the motion for his impeachment through a 2/3 majority of the 300 seats of the South Korean National Assembly.
And to the United States, where the final hearing of the House Task Force that investigated the assassination attempts against Donald Trump delved into an explosive moment Thursday as the acting U.S. Secret Service director engaged in a screaming match with a Republican congressman. During the hearing on Capitol Hill, the Republican, Pat Fallon of Texas, began his line of questioning by pressing acting director Ronald Rowe about the agency's failures to provide adequate protection for Mr. Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania in July. Mr. Fallon then shifted to asking about Rowe's appearance at this year's annual September the 1st Remembrance Ceremony at Ground Zero. The congressman displayed a large image of the event showing the acting director of the Secret Service, Mr. Rowe, standing behind then presidential candidate Donald Trump, President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and Mr. Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, with a large red circle around Mr. Rowe's face. The Republican asked Ronald Rowe what member of the Secret Service typically stands closest to the president at such an event, to which Mr. Rowe responded is usually the special agent in charge of the security detail. The U.S. Geological Survey says a strong 7.0 magnitude earthquake has struck off the coast of Northern California. A tsunami warning was initially issued along the coast of both Northern California and Southern Oregon, an area that includes about 4.7 million people, but was later cancelled. Local officials say no deaths of major widespread damage had been reported in the aftermath of the quake, which is one of only 9 such 7-magnitude quakes to strike globally this year. More than 10,000 people were without power in Humboldt County, the earthquake's epicenter, after the earthquake struck.